Anyone like to share? What brought you to this session today?
I'll share.
Thank you.
I'm reflecting, creative reflecting is always something that inspires me. And to be honest, I'm just in need of spaces of community, of reflection and kind hearts and different ways of thinking at the moment. Some people might also call that distraction, but
When we're in our place and we're doing our work, it can feel a bit lonely sometimes. So I totally get you in terms of that, Paul. And thank you for joining us at what I believe is a fairly early hour for you, but not too bad. And we've got in the chat Adriana shares uncovering creativity related to ICF and supervision competencies. And Wafa is interested in new creative, reflective approaches. So I am recording this session because it's not a one-on-one or group demonstration session. And if there is anything you say or share that you'd like me to delete before we share it with our community, there was about 56 registered. We always know that some are registering in time zones that they can't necessarily make. So do let me know if there's anything you need deleting before we share it with the community. And so the reason this session came about is because, drum roll, the ICF supervision competencies were out about 2 weeks ago. So myself, along with a number of global supervisors, were involved in supporting ICF since at least January 2023 in creating the competencies. And it was through workshops and through surveys. And it involved not only supervisors of coaches, but even supervisors who've never been coaches, which is fabulous. And then what was created from that was the competency model, and who knows what will be next. I mean, personally, we're hoping that supervisors will down the line become accredited, and also having programs specifically
recording in progress.
Specifically, just let me mute there we go, specifically approved, I lost my wording, approved, accredited in supervision would be fabulous as well. These are presently with the MCC and AC, and we're hoping as a faculty that that's the way ICF move as well. There's more to come on that. They're just my thoughts and what I would love, and I know some of you on this call who would love that as well. And there are working parties starting to see now the competencies are here. What next? And so, in terms of this session, what we're going to do is we're going to play with a number of creative tools whilst also bringing to life the competencies. And what I'd love if this was interactive. So share in the chat if you've got to stay on mute, or please take yourself off mute. I'll be sharing a Miro board, and I know a lot of you have used these tools before. So that's a way to collaborate. So in the spirit of what Paul's been saying there. And the first thing we're going to look at is actually where I am right at this moment in the UK, in South Manchester. And the colours at the moment are absolutely fabulous. So I'm going to share the Miro link. Autumn is my favourite time of year. Some love summer. For me, autumn is my absolute favourite because getting wrapped up after working so many years in the Middle East is really quite exciting for me. So sometimes I'm not very big at doing and talking. You've now got the link in the chat to the mirror, and I invite you to use this image as a stimulus. And I will bring you all over to me. And the idea is to think about how you are right now, this moment, when you think about supervision. So it may be it may be different than it was as you joined the call, maybe different than it was a year ago, maybe different by the end of the session. How are you right now? And we're using the image metaphorically. So what I've done here, I've got my sticky with my name in it, and I'll explain shortly why I've put myself on the reflection of that beautiful orange tree. So you can take a sticky from over on the right, write your name on it and place it on the image. And of course, this is a tool that can be used one-on-one or with groups in supervision. And I also found it fabulous with team coaching supervision and co-team coaches together in supervision as well. And it can help people focus on the here and now, or it may be that you use the stimulus, the metaphorical landscape, in a way that helps you think about who you are as a coach in supervision, or the business side of supervision, the restorative side when energy's low or things aren't going quite well, or there's other things going on in your life, or even the benchmarking, the part that brings in the ethical elements of supervision. And I just chose this image because the colours were lovely out of my window today, and this place is close by. Of course, you can do it to support different geographies, any image at all. And it's always fascinating what different people bring to life in the image in terms of the reflection that's shared. And so I'll share mine, and then I invite anyone here to also share what's going on for them. I'll just make the image a little bit bigger, always really useful when it's a touch screen as well, to be able to do that nice and easily. So I'm here, and the reason I'm here is because I'm excited about the ICF Supervision Competencies coming out, and the colour orange is attracting me because it feels warm and vibrant. And I'm really loving the buzz that's there on social media and in the emails, LinkedIn especially, around the competencies. And I'm also reflecting in terms of where is the field of coaching supervision in the wider field of supervision in general. And so that's me over there in the water, reflecting in that particular space. Anyone like to share where they are and what they're experiencing about supervision right now in this moment? Rian.
Hello, hello.
Hi,
So,
welcome.
thank you. So I chose the orange because it makes me feel cheerful. Like you, I like autumn and its colors. I also chose yellow for the same reason, yellow and orange. I am, if you notice in the image, I am at the tree on the top and looking at myself swimming and seeing my reflection in the water. So I'm trying to be compatible with the competencies, my coaching practice. From time to time, I pause and see how long I have reached in my practice mastery level. and I love it. I enjoy supervision, and I felt so passionate about it. The first time I joined the course with Dr. Claire, that's why I completed the diploma as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Wafa, I can see your hand up as well.
Yeah, thank you. I will make it short. Actually, I am, it's kind of one step inside, one step outside. And for me, this is really far away from supervision. So I'm interested to put another step inside and to learn more, to be honest. Especially that I saw also that also you offer that, like supervision, and I'm more than interested in this program right now. And honestly, I always find it good at work to have, for example, coach supervisor, and which I think we need it at work currently, because it's not that easy for the coach to take always. The energy comes from outside. So this is my perspective here.
Thank you for sharing, Wafa. I appreciate that. Do we have one more?
Well, I can share shortly. I'm in here surrounded by other ducks. So in my mind, it's like swimming together in this supervision lake. And as I see here, some dear people from our training in the first half of the year, I'm missing that community or gathering. So that's why I placed myself here.
Fantastic. Thank you. I saw you off mute, Paul. Did you want to share?
Yeah, I am also a duck. And being a supervisor, being really excited about the competencies coming out. Above the water is my duck of excitement. But like all ducks below the water, there's a lot of paddling that you don't see. And so really it's below the water that I'm very curious as to what are the next steps. And I think we all, those of us that are supervisors, all are very curious if what the next steps are after the competencies coming out. So it was above the water and below the water for me, but I'm still a happy duck.
And I love just looking there, the way the ripples are going out from there as well. Fantastic. Thank you. And so let's have a look at the competencies. So in terms of the definition from ICF, coaching supervision is a dynamic and reflective process of collaboration, guidance, and support through which coaches develop their personal, professional, and ethical capacity and maturity. So one word that really comes to mind when I look at this is reflection and growth. Anyone, any words that come to mind for them? Anything that encapsulates it?
Well, for me, is this also personal besides professional side?
Yeah, and just as when we're coaching, when we're supervising the human being in front of us. And that bit really speaks to me in terms of the restorative element of supervision. Being fit for purpose. Yeah, so the restorative, the resourcing, the benchmarking, those three elements come way back from Proctor, from the model of supervising in therapy. And then added to that, just recently, last couple of years, is also the business side as well. And so that fourth leg of what's called the supervision stool really balances things out. Anyone else, any comments on the definition?
If I may, Dr. Sia, it's holding in trust, because by the time I come to supervision, there is that trust.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting because I was doing a supervision on supervision session before. So my notes are just here from the session I was doing today. And one of the students on our diploma was actually doing some research on what stops people going to supervision, and that lack of collaboration, lack of trust, feeling that the lights being, you know, the torches being shone on you, feeling that other things were to do with, is, do we have enough time for it, the cost of it, the value of it. So really interesting, all these things. Some people actually feel fear, especially in group supervision. So really important that the psychological safety. And I remember being supervised by Peter Hawkins when I was doing my training. And one thing he did when he was demonstrating a supervision session was to ask us all, what do you least want to bring to supervision today? And he gave us a few minutes to reflect on that. You might want to reflect on that yourself. If this was a supervision session right now with these people on the call, what would you least want to bring? If anyone's being brave, you can even write that in the chat, or of course you may want to keep that just for yourself. Rihan.
The least I want to bring is being upset, some personal stuff. So when I show up, I want to disconnect and enjoy the session, especially if it's a group session. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Definitely my biases.
Mm. Mm. And sometimes people say that we least want to bring is the thing that we should share with our supervisor, which is an interesting juxtaposition. Thank you for sharing. And then looking, what I've done here is mapped the Coach Me going dizzy there, mapped the Coach Me supervision model to the written part of ICF. So in terms of the ethical guidance, real clarity on what supervision is and is not. So we've got the knowledge piece there, making sure clients thoroughly understand that as well, and the legal aspects in terms of the knowledge, and also exploring and managing dilemmas. Really important and useful place to go in supervision is also managing the supervisory relationship. So seeing this relationship as an entity in its own right, and reflecting on what's working, what isn't, and being brave enough to bring those things you want more of and chat with your supervisor around that, and also the things that you need shifting to enable you to reflect more, learn more, and lock in that learning to positively impact your practice down the line. And that might be to do with skills, it might be to do with behaviors, it may be to do with coaching presence, the way we're acting. And so in terms of creative ways to work with this, one thing I was thinking in terms of coaching presence today, and I'll just stop sharing the screen for this bit. Paul will be pleased. I trained in Lego Serious Play with Paul over these summer months, and I was playing just before the session. And what we've got here is me considering right now, 5 minutes before our session today, what's most important to me about my role as a coach. And keeping moving forward's really important. I'm always wanting to learn more about the systems and the clients and the approaches and the models and the theory and the research. But also there was something in being really agile and choosing what's needed in that moment with that client to support them and their clients. But also very important to me was also, oh, it's a bit shiny there, was also that there was growth happening. And interestingly, you know, growth for my clients, but also growth for me as well. And then I sort of boldly thought, and if I'm feeling after a while that there's no growth, something needs to shift. Or am I still working fit for purpose at my best? So there's an interesting inquiry that just came from creating that piece. Okay, so that's something really useful that we can do. And I find that putting the pieces together and even working in supervision and coaching, move the client moving the pieces as they go, helps with the thinking. Paul, is there anything you want to add to that?
I
Don't
just
feel obliged.
I always love seeing you and seeing anybody build and reflect with their hands. There, uh, uh, our bodies have so much wisdom that this part of our thinking space may not quite be ready to share. And when we put those thoughts into our hands and then anchor them and then move and see how the new perspectives, it's a wonderful gift. I'm just smiling because whenever I see you share Lego, I smile. Thank you.
Well, you are in our world, the Coach Me world, you are the king of Lego. So, interestingly, the one that struck me today was this agility. Agility to move right off here as well. What's in another sphere? And that movement of the actual structure as well. So the way things shift for us over time as they do for our clients. And of course, this type of thing really easy to use online. There we go. The client can share down here as we're still talking about what they're pointing at about their build. Of course, that is a 2-minute demonstration with Lego of what is hours and hours of wonderful work that can be done with it. And so let's go back to the Miro. And so we talked here about the foundations. And then the next part of the model is about engaging in ongoing reflective practice. So useful here is what needs to be brought up in supervision today. In our model, we've got results in the center. What results do you need? What do your clients need you to focus on in supervision today? What will success for the session look like? Balancing the emotional, the spiritual, the mental elements of our client as a human being, and also sharing together in partnership the process. Where do we need to go now? Transition planning. Where are we moving to right now in the session? What needs our focus? So that also links with momentum at the top of our model. And then openly being aware of strengths and limitations, and then barriers to moving forward as well. Barriers to shifting and stretching. And also in terms of different ways to work as a supervisor, there may be times when we need to be more directive. for example, with ethics or feeding back to the person we're supervising. And other times it may be working in emergence, whatever's coming up in a hermeneutics, and even with psychodynamics. Sometimes we may dip into the past and see how that impacts the present. And then also, of course, mentioning when we as supervisors feel more guidance and support may be needed for our clients. And so a creative way to work together in supervision, and of course it can be used in coaching as well, is Heron's six categories of intervention. And so I can see you smiling there, Khaled. And so what we have is a facilitative and an authoritative side to this particular model. And if you just glance through there, cathartic, seeing what's coming up, catalytic, being the ignition that moves things forward, supportive, and then prescriptive moves to more towards telling, informative, maybe something around contracting that the person is not very familiar with, and confronting, directly challenging. And sometimes we may see someone in supervision moving away slightly, and it's our choice point. If they're moving away from it, is that because they need to move away, or they want to move away from a challenging, more confronting question? So we ask them, what are you experiencing now that we brought that topic up? And we see together if diving deeper into it will be useful for them and their work. So you might want to think yourself, play with these different approaches. Which is your go-to? Which one is your style? And of course, with that, it may be your style. Is it the best style for those that you're working with? They may learn in a different way. You can even blend into this the different learning styles, for example, activist, pragmatist, and so forth, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, those people that like movement, reading and writing. Yeah, so which is your go-to, but also which is your stretch? And what ways can you blend in a full repertoire of approaches into your work as a supervisor or facilitator or someone training as well? Anyone like to share? Rihan.
Mine is supportive. It's number one. Sometimes I confront when it's needed. I feel I need to work more on that because it's sensitive sometimes. So I don't like to confront, but when I feel it's needed, I really feel bad at the same time. I don't want to feel that. I should feel that's the right thing and I must do it. Thank you.
And I may be wrong, but I sort of felt a sort of little bit of nervous giggling when you were talking about that there and talking about, the stretch into confronting. So I'll share something, no need to answer at all. And it may be something that's useful for us all. And when we confront and when we support, what is the impact for our clients? And it's about having these in your bag and choosing, like situational leadership, what's useful in the moment. So we also talked a little bit there about visual, seeing things. So just like we did the metaphorical landscape at the start, we can also, in team coaching supervision, use a visual approach. So this here are a number of images. What I tend to do, whether it's in person, the images are physical. If it's online, then they're placed around the Miro board on a white screen, and then people can choose what's needed for this session. So just to bring these images to life, what we've got here is, see the fish on the left. This team who's in the center feel that the system is looking at them. They're actually a marketing branding team. And so those white fish are looking in at the team, and the impact for the team being watched together at team level, not the individual levels, but together at team level, actually made them go insular, as opposed to working to address the needs of the system. And so on the right hand side, you'll see a rather unusual picture that I took one time. Someone, thankfully a little doll by the looks of it, had lost their arm. And this was my perception of what was coming up for me as a supervisor when listening to the team coach when I was supervising them. And it was almost like this team has the skills, they have the knowledge, they know the right behaviors, and yet they're not joining the bits together. And so this looking insular meant they were doing, performing, but not necessarily creating the impact that was needed for their purpose of a team. And what the team coach added, and you'll see what's useful when we use these images online as well, we can make them bigger or smaller. And so what the team coach added was, here, this is the team leader. The team coach felt they were careful, taking things calculated, possibly moving a little bit slow. There was one other person in the team that was sharing a little bit of anxiety in terms of the way the team were operating together. There was one person that was the, should we say, to label them as joker in the team. They're performing absolutely, but if it was using transactional analysis here, they were actually playing out child, the mischievous child. They actually liked also the drama triangle and, you know, playing the different parts in that, which wasn't in service, of course, of the team and their purpose. And one other member of the, but this character, as you can see, is a pretty big character in terms of their energy and what they project onto the team. And then this person, it says better half. The team coach placed them in the middle because they were the glue trying to keep the team together. Interestingly, one observation, the team leader isn't in the middle. This particular person, the better half, was in the middle. And then just to point out, the two images that were placed here by the team coach, one of them, the top one, was around the purpose. It was a little bit dark and grey, and definitely was a place that needed to be dived into in future team coaching sessions. And then the other one, things are a bit tangled. So ironing out the way the team needs to work together to align to their purpose was also another place that, leaving the session, the team coach felt would be in service of the team. So using the images here, any comments, anyone, about this creative approach and how it can support either coaching or, of course, supervision? And in this case, it was team coaching supervision.
I see the benefit of it. I haven't figured out yet which tool to use to entice the creative side of teams or supervisees out. So while this is not my natural being, I see the benefit. I want to explore, but it takes time to experiment and find the right tool for me.
Thank
And I
you,
can say
Karen.
Miro it is not. That is too clumsy for me, at least at the moment.
Yeah, and so there's the whiteboard in things like Zoom, and even using a Word document. And of course, with any of this as well, they can just draw and hold it up to the screen to share what they've drawn. You can't, it's not as dynamic. You can't make things bigger and smaller and move them about. That's the disadvantage. However, at least they can sketch or write words or write names or labels, as we've had in this case, in terms of the players in the team system. Thank you, Khalid. Anyone else like to share? And so, Rihan.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add recently with many people, I used the GIFs and stickers in the interactive boards, and people loved it in teams and individual. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and even things like dot voting can be useful. I've got a little picture of that on there. And in supervision, if you're doing group supervision, one way to manage the process of the group is to ask everyone, for example, what's the title of the film, or what's the book title for what you're bringing to supervision today? And then we encourage everyone to share high level and just a few lines or a few sentences of blurb about their book or their film of what they're bringing to supervision, maybe even a question around it. And then we can ask, so we've got 1, we've got 2, we've got 3, excuse my scribbly writing there. So maybe there's 3 topics, and then people can actually dot vote which one. Oh, the dot's not working. Sorry. Dot vote which one they want. So it may be that, a number of people in the group, say 3, want to focus on topic 2 if it's a long supervision session, or even just deciding who's going first. You can use fun things like this to order the process of the session. And of course, using these type of tools to enable people to comment and share appreciation for each other, either during or at the end of the supervision, can be useful as well. And so going back to the competencies, what we've got here is number 3 in terms of the process or structure. We've talked a little bit there about the process and structure. So the contracting can also be done in a fun way, where I've done it one time with a group in terms of the contract in the session, where again, there's lots of sticky notes. What's most important to you in service of your learning in our group coaching sessions. And everyone shares, and we see the commonalities, and we see any atypical nuances there, so that everyone's aware of each other's learning styles. And then again, as a process, you can use something like Miro as the supervision sessions progress to keep capturing the learning throughout the session. And of course, with the link, people can also use that learning over time, adding between the sessions as well. So in terms of the relationship, what you can do here is consider things like, and it's also part of the seven-eyed model of supervision from Peter Hawkins and Robin Shohut. And in our model, it's there in terms of behaviors. In service of our supervisory relationship, who do we need to be? And you can use things like characters from films, or, if we together were at a fancy dress party, what would we both be wearing now we know each other a little bit more? And what's that about? And what do we appreciate? And what do we need to turn the volume up on? What do we need more of? For example, maybe the supervisee, the coach, wants the supervisor to be braver. And so even just, glancing together, you can use images. If you've got the paid version of ChatGPT, there's loads of other things. Dream.ai allows you to create images as well, and capture the two of you or the group in terms of this is us and this is the essence, as one visual of the way we want our supervisory relationship to be. And you can even do that over time should things need to shift in the relationship. And so a little bit there in terms of the process. And then also over here in terms of 4, manages the process and makes adjustments to meet stakeholders' needs. And so in that sculpt of the team that I just shared, what's also there is bringing in the needs of the stakeholders. So the 3 little fish that are watching the team, you can do the approach of the Gestalt empty chair, for example, in supervision, and ask the coach to sit in the chair of self. Maybe over here, just moving, geography works by just moving slightly, the team, and maybe over here, the different stakeholders or one particular one. But then also, if they can just even leaning back a bit, they can also be in the observer perspective. And now that you've explored as the coach different perspectives, what are you noticing now? What needs focus? What needs uncovering with the client in their system? And so using the empty chair technique is again something useful and creative that you can use in supervision. And it may be a longer session on that, or it may be just a snippet sitting in one particular chair for a little bit of the supervision. And then over here, creating a supportive environment. And so exploring together with the supervisee or the group what works for them, encouraging them to ask for what they need. Sometimes people need, for example, extra thinking time, silence. It may be that they want to bring along a certain kind of music that they wish to play whilst they're reflecting. So anything to support their thinking. I was working with one supervisee and they loved the Baroque music, which is apparently proven as well to enable thinking to happen. So we'd play that together. And as they were sketching and drawing and writing in terms of certain bits of the session when they wanted to just be with self in our space, I was also doing the same as well. And then we'd share what came up after playing the music for an amount of time decided by the supervisee. So what I was blending in there is some of the thinking of Nancy Klein's thinking environment, asking the person being supervised how long they want to spend on each bit of the supervision session. So again, working in partnership. And then facilitating the client's reflection. So other things that can come in here are, I was playing about before, and if I can find it now, I was playing about with, where are we? I might have to look for it shortly. Again, ChatGPT, writing in some words in terms of me as a coach and asking it to write a limerick. So a limerick is, it's a 5-line poem that rhymes, and apparently I believe limericks come from Ireland. And it was humor, it was light, and then I said, create me an image around this as well, and then something else comes up. Takes a few seconds. You can also put in words with your supervisee or group at the end of the session. Press go and ask it again to create an image to encapsulate the words. So what's the learning from this session, for example? Everyone's words are there and an image is created to lock in the learning from that particular supervision session. So again, different ways to create. Interesting with equity, diversity, inclusion, in belonging. You can ask people to sit in the stance of one of those particular things, equity, diversity, inclusion, or belonging, and to share from that perspective what they're experiencing in terms of their work, the field that they're operating, the field that their clients are in, and or what's being experienced by their clients as well. And so that is the 6. There's another bit down here, which is, where's number 7 gone? Oh, doesn't seem I put number 7 on there. Apologies. Oh, yeah. I'm going too fast. So number 7 is guides clients' development. So remembering with supervision, it's about challenge, but also support and enabling deepening of development. It may be different approaches. It may be that they want to move into more somatic work or solution focused or even existential approaches, and they want to work with some models, tools, or techniques. We can do role play right there in the session, get them to work with us a little bit so they can play with a model that we share about one of those particular approaches. It may be going deeper into presence, and again, a little bit of role play, and then we share what we experienced. Or in supervision, the supervisee brings a trigger tape, a short recording, say 5 minutes of their work, and we play that together there in the supervision session, and then explore what was happening, what worked, what didn't, but from the angle of restoring, It may be to do with confidence or imposter syndrome, the resourcing. What else could they have done? The benchmarking. Where is the quality? It's there written in terms of 3 on this particular bit. And also the business side. What way could they contract even better as one particular thing? It may even be pricing, pitching, and promoting. And they, right there in the supervision session, have a go at pitching. And then together as a group or one-on-one, we provide feedback on that as well. So role play is also a really useful tool in supervision. And there's research that says if you practice it right there in the session, it's more likely to happen in future out of the session with them and their clients. This slide alone, there's so much in terms of group supervision, managing the process, managing elements where there's different experience levels in the group, managing a group member who's not quite as on board as the others, or a group member that's speaking even more of the others, and we want to recontract around airtime, how much time people get together. Coming from a teaching background, group supervision, and especially team coaching supervision in a group format, that seems a mouthful. That is something that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite pieces in my work. And so we've covered a fair few things here. I'm just going to glance down to see if there's anything. So here we've got something that we can play with again in terms of supervision. Bloom's taxonomy. This comes from about the 1960s, but just like so many models, ikigai in terms of a coach finding their purpose, their niche, that's a really useful model to use. Or this particular one, and they can recall what happened in a session or a series of sessions with one client, or a habit that keeps occurring across different clients. And it's about facts. And then we go to discovering and explaining and understanding in some of the back pages. And then applying. What way can we use the learning to interpret it and consider future focus and the way it needs to be moving forward? And then analysis. So compare and contrast different approaches, different options. And as a supervisor, we may well share ourselves. And then evaluating, judging. What's good about this? What's not so? And supporting as well, and critiquing. And then at the top, designing a way forward and a way to measure when they have a go at that new approach. How will they decide if it's actually had impact with their client, which may be asking the client, which may be somatically what they're experiencing, and they may bring it back to supervision, and we could even start at the bottom again. Now, this isn't linear, it can go backwards and forwards, but sometimes using a model to aid reflection can ensure that we've worked around that particular topic in numerous different ways. And there's some words there. Of course, this Miro's live for you to go in at any time and, you know, have a look at these in more details. These are some of the words that go with each bit of the model there. And so when I zoom out, you've got numerous resources that we've looked at here today. This particular one that I didn't directly point to is different things from the Gestalt approach. Exaggeration for one is really useful. Asking them to, you know, say even more about that. Repeat that again. This type of thing can be really useful, but also stay in that fertile void. Stay with them where they're at, as we can see their thinking is still progressing. And of course, we've got on there as well appreciation. And being in the here and now. Let's use being in the here and now as a way to close this session. I put on here our supervision program and our group supervision of team coaches, if you want to look at those on the website. And also, we had a supervision conference a few weeks ago. The recordings are still there if anyone would like to look at those. And of course, our community cafes, they happen at least once a month, and they're all here on the home page of the website. There's a book club coming up at 2 different times a day, and then in January, schema coaching, which for me, I see this as one of those things that I want to learn more about. So I'll be attending definitely, but also Ian has done so much research, absolute expert in this area. So as we bring our session to a close, and I finally take a breath, how are you? Yeah, sure, I'll share the Miro link because you joined the session a little bit after the start. How are you as we are closing our session today? Just put the Miro link in the chat. So feel free to type how you are as you're leaving. Maybe a reflection on something that you're going to have a go at. Anyone like to share? Khalid. And then we'll go to Susanna.
It's a journey. I mean, I did the supervision certificate now and then somewhere around the middle in the diploma. And every time I look at it, I sort of broaden my horizon. It's really not something like how can I say this? Your multiplication tables. You study and it's always the same. Every time I look at it, it changes. Every time I look at it, my eyes are different. So it's constantly evolving.
Fantastic. Thank you, Khalid. Susanna.
Well, I haven't said anything before because I didn't really know what to expect. And I put myself on this platform with all those lovely trees behind, which I know my skills and experience, and like, a whole kind of view of the pond, and kind of not ready to jump or not really knowing what's there, what's under the water, or how big the pond is. So that's where I was, but I'm leaving satisfied. I'm not skilled in supervision. I'm a mentor coach and an individual and team coach. And actually, I've been checking out your courses. That's why I'm here. And even today's session, which is, of course, not a whole program, gave me a lot because I can use that in, it made me think and reflect, and I can use it even in team coaching or any other actually places, right? How to use, I mean, I work not on Miro, but on Mural, but it doesn't really matter, right? I like the concept. So thank you for that.
Pleasure. And interestingly, you're halfway to supervision in a way, because with AC, Association for Coaching in EMCC, supervision encapsulates considering the competencies and even recordings. And so that has been separate with ICF and still is. However, with the other two, it's together. Wafa.
Yeah, thank you a lot. It was so really informative. And especially that I'm interested now in it, so it makes sense a lot to attend this session. What captured my attention from the beginning, the definition of supervision. One part of it, ethical capacity. And I was thinking, how different is it from one person to another person to have ethical capacity? And this is really interesting for me because I know ICF set a group of ethical codes. And so here is the question for me.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Adriana?
Yes, so as I saw these photos of this team, I remembered my metaphor from our program with a turtle, which I used to apply for EMCC supervision accreditation. And I remember all of this process, so I'm thankful for the inspiration you are bringing in each of these sessions you facilitate. And I'm leaving with a question to explore: what are the distinctions between ICF and EMCC approach to supervision?
What a great exploration. I did an article, I think it was just as the competencies came out. I did a bit of analysis. It's there on LinkedIn. I'll share that with you.
Thank you.
So thank you all so much for coming. I hope you've got something useful out of the session. Lovely having you here. Do join our book club later in the month if you wish, and enjoy your work with your clients.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.